Everything I wrote in Betrayal has proven to be true.
Yes.
Everything I wrote in Revenge has proven to be true.
According to Tom Bower's past commentary, many viewers feel his takes on Harry and Meghan have later lined up with what played out publicly, and now he is suggesting that the couple could be facing a major setback. Here are 15 reasons Tom Bower believes things may be falling apart for them. Back when Harry and Meghan were still mapping out their exit from royal life, one of their biggest hopes was that Hollywood deals and sponsorships would step in. They seemed to believe that once they stepped away from royal duties, the entertainment world would offer the support they needed to keep their lifestyle going.
When they first got to the United States from Canada in 2020, they needed money, they wanted fame, they wanted to be able to tell their story in their terms.
That hope gave them the confidence to announce their departure. But to their surprise, the very deals they believed would protect their future, according to some reports, reportedly began to unravel. Netflix eventually ended the arrangement, with observers pointing to the lack of strong results. After that, they shifted attention to Spotify, but that partnership also appeared to fall apart after just 1 season and 12 episodes. From there, online criticism grew louder, and some people publicly labeled them as grifters, adding even more pressure to an already messy situation.
She's finished.
Right.
The Netflix series is over. There's no great podcast. They don't generate any money. And I don't see where she is going from here. I think she has a major problem. Meghan and Harry's crisis, completely of their own making, is they have no major projects, no major money earners. And so they're more desperate than ever. And I think that they don't know what to do other than to try and come back to Britain and rebuild themselves as some sort of members of the royal family.
According to Tom Bower, the couple may have reached the end of the road in Hollywood, with his views centered on what he describes as a lack of fresh creative talent and an outsized sense of self-importance. That is his criticism, and it is part of the wider public debate around their next move. Harry also recently lost a legal case involving the publishers of the Daily Mail, and that has reportedly left him facing significant legal costs. At the same time, the Invictus Games are only a year away, and online discussions suggest sponsors have been stepping back, raising questions about whether there will be enough money to cover the event. On top of that, maintaining their Montecito mansion and the lifestyle around it is said to cost millions each year, including security and everyday living expenses. That is why so many people online are watching the situation closely, because the pressure is not just about headlines, it is about whether the couple can actually keep this whole operation running. Commentators have been pointing out that once the big entertainment deals start weakening, every other part of the picture becomes harder to defend. Supporters say the criticism is overblown, but critics argue that the public image and the business side seem more fragile now than they did at the start. And with money, reputation, and future opportunities all being discussed at the same time, the conversation has turned into more than simple gossip. It has become a real test of whether they can still convince Hollywood and the public that their next chapter has momentum.
They are so broke. Financially, the couple are a laughingstock in Montecito. A really good example of how financially challenged they are. It's almost unheard of to buy a house in Montecito and just move into it, right? You buy a house and you do like a $7 million remodeling job, right? To make it all up to date. You don't take the sort of, we've seen the insides of the house. Yep. It's hideous. It's absolutely hideous.
The income coming in now reportedly falls far short of what that lifestyle requires. At this point, their earnings seem to be coming mostly from the occasional speaking engagement and a handful of endorsements, after several of the bigger opportunities dried up. According to Tom Bower, the financial pressure may be pushing them to look for a way back into the United Kingdom, but he argues that would not happen because, in his view, they are not prepared to apologize for past mistakes.
To resurrection, be the royal family, somehow find a way in which they could monetize themselves through being accepted again in Britain. But of course, they're not apologizing. They have no contrition for the terrible things they've done over the last 5 years. So I never understood exactly how they thought it would play out.
The Archewell Foundation got off to a promising start, but over time, questions began to surface around finances and transparency. Some supporters reportedly grew uneasy, feeling the charity was not being fully clear about how money was being used. And just as some sponsors were said to be stepping back from the Invictus Games, Others also appeared to lose confidence in Archewell. That turned into another discouraging chapter in Harry and Meghan's post-royal life. Bauer argues that the foundation gradually became more about image than lasting impact, and in his view, that shift took a serious toll on its credibility.
The Archewell Foundation has been declared delinquent by the state of California, meaning it is not in good standing as a charity and not permitted to engage in activities like raising and spending money, pretty much all you would expect a charitable fund to do. It is understood that the Archewell Foundation did not pay the necessary fees correctly and was unaware of the issue until the delinquency notice was issued.
According to Tom Bauer, Harry's public standing has kept sliding, at least in his view. He has stepped away from charities like Santa Ballet after reported disagreements with its leadership, and now the Invictus Games, still his biggest public platform, is also said to be facing some serious hurdles. Sponsors are not lining up the way they once did. Bauer argues that the ongoing drama and public controversy around Harry may have made donors and business partners pause before getting involved. Rather than putting money into projects linked to him, many are reportedly looking at other opportunities instead. That shift, if it continues, could make it even harder for his public efforts to keep the same level of momentum. And that is exactly why the reaction keeps getting louder online, because every fresh setback seems to raise the same question: how much of this public image can still hold together? Commentators say the issue is no longer just one deal, one charity, or one event. It is the pattern people think they are seeing. When each piece starts to wobble, the whole narrative around stability and influence gets harder to protect. Some supporters still argue that the criticism ignores the bigger picture, but online discussions suggest patience may be wearing thin. If a project is seen as struggling, it can affect the next one, and then the next one after that. That is why people are reading so much into every update, every report, and every sign of hesitation. To critics, it looks like the public is no longer giving the benefit of the doubt as easily as before, and that change in mood may be just as important as the headlines themselves.
I've always wondered what the end game of Harry and Meghan's life would be. And I think we're now edging towards the chapters of the decline, because the pristineness has now gone. And that's rather interesting.
Harry may have believed that, after stepping away from royal life, he could always find a way back if he chose to. But according to Tom Bauer, that bridge has now been badly damaged. Years of public disputes, reported tension between Meghan and Prince William, and a tell-all memoir that left very few people untouched, have, in Bauer's view, created divisions that run far deeper than many expected. Bauer argues that the strain has built up so much over time that repairing those relationships now looks incredibly difficult, if not nearly impossible. In online commentary, that is exactly what keeps standing out, the sense that every new conflict has only made the gap wider, not smaller. And once that kind of damage sets in, the path back can become far more complicated than anyone first imagined.
So I think it's the royal family versus the Sussexes. And today, the royal family won. But in the end, of course, you can easily say nobody's won, because this battle in public is a catastrophe for the royal family. And that has been hugely damaging.
The couple said they wanted a more private life after moving to California. Yet online commentary has often pointed to the way they still leaned on royal ties, while also speaking critically about the institution. Bauer argues that this may have gone against the spirit of the understanding they made when leaving, and that they may have continued benefiting from the attention built around the royal family. Because of that, resentment has only seemed to keep building, and reconciliation now appears even more difficult.
The problem is that they betrayed, that they actually, in the end, ignored the agreement that they settled on, because allegedly they were going to California for privacy and to leave the royal family, and they've done the exact opposite. But I think part of the problem has been the weakness of the king. He should never have agreed for their children to get royal titles after the Queen's death. And he should have stripped them of their titles and actually made a declaration that they're no longer representatives or members of the royal family.
Since stepping away from royal life, Harry and Meghan have often gained extra attention whenever the palace responded to their claims, because each reply seemed to generate even more headlines. But according to Bauer, King Charles and Prince William have now taken a different approach. Instead of answering publicly, they are staying quiet. That silence has reportedly made it much harder for Harry and Meghan to control the news cycle the way they once did. Without a direct palace response, many of their stories seem to lose momentum much faster, and the conversation moves on before it can build the same level of heat. That shift matters more than it may first seem because public attention is often the real engine behind these stories. When the palace does not jump in, the conversation has less to latch onto, and the speculation starts to fade on its own. For Harry and Meghan, that can make each new criticism feel harder to turn into momentum, especially when online reactions are already questioning how much influence they still have. And that is where the bigger problem comes in. If every response is quieter, every headline has less room to grow, and every disputed claim gets less oxygen, then the couple may find it more difficult to keep shaping the narrative around them. Critics online say that kind of silence can speak louder than any statement, because it leaves the impression that the story is moving on without them. In a climate like that, even a small setback can start to look like part of a much larger pattern.
I think the king right now, his best bet would be to distance himself completely, make it clear to Harry that the Sussexes are not welcome at all in Britain for a very, very long time.
When Harry and Meghan sat down for the Oprah interview, a lot of people initially sympathized with them and respected their willingness to speak out publicly. But over time, that support seems to have faded. According to Bauer, many of the viewers who once backed the couple have grown weary of the repeated public disputes and ongoing complaints. People who once defended them are no longer nearly as enthusiastic, and that has left the couple with far less public support than they seemed to have at the start.
My feeling is that the king might be slightly sympathetic, but it'll be stopped by William and Camilla. The one thing they don't is Harry and Meghan parading together in Britain.
This may be one of the most troubling reasons people point to. When Harry stepped away from royal life, it seems he may have believed he no longer needed the circle around him. Over time, he reportedly drifted from longtime friends, military connections, and several family members, which left him with far fewer support networks. Now, from his Montecito home, he appears to be growing more isolated alongside Meghan. There have even been reports and online comments suggesting he may miss aspects of his former life and the closeness of his family. And if that is true, it only makes the current situation feel even heavier.
Another town full of celebrities. Here, he was somebody, and there is just another celebrity. In my view, he's the loser, big time.
Well, I read in the paper this morning, before he went, he was the most popular member of the royal family. And now he's right down, almost at the bottom of the list.
According to Bauer, nearly every major announcement tied to Harry and Meghan now seems to be followed by a fresh wave of controversy. During their planned visit to Australia, there were reports of petitions pushing back against the trip, with some people objecting to public funds being used for security. Similar conversations surrounded Harry's recent visit to the United Kingdom, where online discussion quickly shifted away from the reason for the visit itself. Instead of the spotlight staying on the purpose of their appearances, the public conversation kept circling back to the backlash. Those repeated headlines have continued to overshadow the work they are trying to promote, and that makes it much harder for their message to break through. And that public backlash can create a very specific kind of pressure. Even when the details remain disputed, the reaction itself can start to shape how every new move is received. Instead of getting a clean rollout, Harry and Meghan seem to face an audience that is already looking for the angle, the catch, or the hidden motive behind the next announcement. That is what makes the situation so difficult to manage. Once a couple becomes a constant topic of criticism and debate, it can be hard to reset the conversation, no matter what they say or where they appear. Supporters may still defend them, but the louder online chatter often drowns out the original purpose of the visit or project. So each new step does not just stand on its own, it gets pulled into the wider argument about whether their public image is still working at all.
And that is what's so extraordinary, the sheer hypocrisy of a man and his wife who preach and forget their own sins, which are documented in the books, in what I can only call a gripping narrative, a great story, a roller coaster. It really is an amazing story, but it really is I mean, that is really what is the punishment of these people. It's that they're being such hypocrites.
According to Bauer, the monarchy has kept moving forward without Harry and Meghan, and public attention has not slowed down around that. King Charles, Prince William and Princess Catherine have reportedly taken on even greater responsibilities, while royal life has continued to adapt. Bauer's point is that, instead of being remembered for their role in supporting the institution, Harry and Meghan are now more often discussed in connection with the conflicts surrounding it, which has shaped how many people view their place in the story.
Nobody ever asks them, do you regret having lied to Oprah Winfrey? Do you regret having lied on Netflix and all the magazine interviews? Don't you see what a terrible mistake you've made?
Bauer suggests that Harry's biggest advantage has always been the fact that he is Prince Harry. That royal identity, he argues, opened doors all over the world and gave him instant recognition. Without that title attached, Bauer says Harry has had a tougher time building a fully independent public image. A lot of the attention still seems tied to his royal background, which makes it harder for him to create lasting success outside the monarchy. According to Bauer, audiences also tend to move on. In his view, the Harry and Meghan story does not pull the same level of excitement it once did. What used to dominate headlines now feels like just another topic for many people, and public attention has clearly shifted elsewhere, making it much harder for the couple to draw the same kind of interest.
He behaves like a child, in fact almost like a baby, and William is not a baby or a child. He's grown up and he's responsible because he's heir to the throne. So we now want someone who is sensible, and Harry is absolutely ludicrous, sticking out his tongue, playing with somebody who is very fat and pushes her back and forth as he hugged her.
Harry's ongoing legal matters have added another layer of pressure to both his finances and his public image. According to Bauer, those court cases, along with the continuing distance between Harry and the royal family, have created a very difficult spot for the couple. The recent legal setback involving the Daily Mail publishers has only intensified that strain, with Harry now facing what appears to be serious financial pressure, while some of his close associates seem to be stepping back. That kind of pressure does not just stay in the background, it starts shaping every conversation around them. When critics and supporters are already divided, even a routine appearance can turn into a bigger story about image, timing, and what the couple is really trying to prove. That is why the online reaction matters so much, because it can make even small moves feel loaded with meaning. At the same time, the constant debate can leave very little room for a clean reset. Each new update gets filtered through old assumptions, and that makes it harder for Harry and Meghan to control the narrative. Instead of being seen only for the project in front of them, they keep getting compared to the wider controversy around their public lives, and that comparison keeps the conversation from settling down.
And if he loses the Daily Mail case, it'll be even worse, because he'll then be like Andrew, branded as a liar, that his evidence wasn't honest and sincere. So he has huge reputational problems.
According to Tom Bauer, a lot of people in Hollywood, and even in the wider public, have grown tired of hearing the same complaints after the Oprah interview, Spare, and the long run of media disputes that followed. In his view, the repeated victim narrative is no longer landing the way it once did, and it is not drawing the same sympathy anymore. Bauer also suggests that companies are becoming far more cautious about doing business with them, mainly because the couple is now seen by some as carrying too much controversy. In that reading, the old strategy does not have the same pull it used to, and the public attention they once enjoyed appears to have faded quite a bit.
They want to show how victims they are.
Yeah.
They've got this style where they feel that they like to be a victim as much as a winner.
So there you have it, 15 reasons Tom Bauer thinks Harry and Meghan may be heading into a rough stretch. Which one stood out to you the most? Comment below, and if you want more breakdowns like this, like, subscribe, share, comment, and see you on the next one.